Since the launch of our Facing It Together campaign earlier this year, we have been using our platform to highlight the strength of survivors of domestic abuse and the importance of reaching out to get help. But we're not the only ones passionate about this cause. Queen Camilla is also a huge advocate, and in a new documentary on ITV tonight, we'll see the work she does behind the scenes.
How do we eradicate domestic abuse?
Don't let's kid ourselves. It's going to take a long, long time because it's been going forever. You know, it's been going, well, since time began. But I think if you look at the steps that we've taken since the bad old days, we have made a huge amount of progress. And I shall keep on trying till I'm able to no more.
We're joined now by Rachel Williams, a survivor who shares her story in the documentary, and Liz Thompson, Director of Public Affairs of domestic abuse charity SafeLives. Just a warning that some of what we will be discussing may be distressing for some of you at home. It's important to say that. And thank you so much, ladies, for being here. And like we say, we're having to say that because this is real life. There's very, very distressing things happening to so many people across the country right now. Rachel, your story is just extraordinary. And like we say, we'll hear you speak tonight in this documentary. But if you don't mind just sharing a little part of it with us, Rachel, you met this guy, you were 21 years old, Darren was his name, you were a single parent at the time to your little boy, he was just 2 at that stage, and you meet this person, he's charming, he's funny, there's this instant connection, and you think, oh, this is good, this is maybe a new chapter of my life, and suddenly things deteriorate quite quickly. There were warning signs.
Yeah, and I wish I'd known about warning signs then. And I always say to people who don't understand domestic abuse and violence is, you know, if you went on a first date and the guy slapped you on a first date, you would be a bit of a muppet to go back for a second date. But they are cleverer than that. It is a grooming process and they reel you in. So I met Darren, as you said, single mum, you know, didn't know much about relationships. You know, met this guy and, you know, slowly reeled in with the coercive controlling behaviour.
What sort of behaviour would you describe? I mean, is it like a normal relationship starting or already now, in retrospect, triggering things?
Now I know, and I work as a professional now I know the signs. They were so visible at the beginning.
What were the signs, Rachel, just as a point of interest?
So, for me, it was like I can remember cooking a meal and he just bailed on me. There was no, reason for it. He just didn't show up and I had this meal. And then basically said, oh, you know, I just didn't feel like coming. You know, just little things. But for me, Gloria, the most significant moment for me with the abuse was when I was 7 months pregnant and he actually lifted me off the floor by my throat and he let me go when my lips turned blue. No. And that was his words he told me later on. And, you know, when he fell to the floor and cried like a baby at 6'7" and 22 stone as a bodybuilder, as an empathetic person, you feel sorry for him. And he come with a lot of baggage.
And they're always going to change, and I promise it's because I love you so much.
Absolutely, Denise. You know, and we know the pattern of behaviour. And for me, you know, I kept holding on to the hope that he was going to change, you know, and I thought, right, I'll help him, I'll get him counselling, because he had issues of his own to deal with. But it just got worse and worse, because all they do then is when you do forgive, is that level of power and control just exacerbates and they're in control even more then, so they know that they can do this cycle of abuse and then it gets ramped up.
Did you seek any help?
Sorry, Gloria, but just back to your point in a way, Gloria, which is what you described there is horrific. Obviously, you know at that point that this is not right and this shouldn't be happening. But in terms of the sort of build-up to that point, in terms of the signs that this is not really a relationship that you should be pursuing, or that at least things are happening within that relationship that you started feeling uncomfortable about, what were they? And were they things that you were happy to share with your friends, or was there a sense of shame about what you were getting deeper into?
I think there's always an element of shame for a victim of abuse, but things like, you know, the coercive controlling behaviour runs through every domestic abusive relationship, and a lot of victims don't understand that. And I say to them, you know, when they say they don't know whether they're being abused because they've never actually hit me. And I said, they've never hit you because you're adhering to those rules and regulations that have been seeped into a relationship you know nothing about until you breach one of those conditions.
Absolutely.
Then there's a consequence.
Absolutely.
And it could be something as simple as 24 hours of silent treatment. So for me, you know, things like I was a hairdresser. I was forbidden to cutting a man's hair. One day, this gentleman came in the salon to have his hair cut, and I was ordered to go, because the staff knew, and I said, you know, I cannot cut this guy's hair. And she said, you're going to have to. You're the only stylist free.
So did you just accept what he was imposing on you?
At this time, yeah, because I was so
Because you don't want the kick-off.
Yeah, you'd do anything for a quiet life.
Rachel, it certainly came to a head, and it was a horrendous experience for you. You mentioned the salon, and you saw him outside. And you've been to the police prior to all of this several times. He had actually gone to jail at one point. But you're in your salon working and you see him, and sadly, this is when it takes an incredibly dark turn.
Yeah, so I can remember going to work, and this was the day after they lifted all the bail restrictions on Darren. The police come down a panic room in my bedroom. They double-skimmed my bedroom door. I had a metal bar that I had to put on. This was in case he broke his bail conditions and come to the house, but he didn't. He came to the salon the next day. I shouldn't have been working that day. And I can remember about 2:20, just finishing doing a client's hair. I was giving her a change back at the reception desk, and all of a sudden the shop went quite dark. And I can remember thinking, what was blocking the sunlight? And as I looked to the door, I could see him, 6'7", 22 stone frame, filling the door. And as he's walking in, he's pushing the door open, and I can see him pulling the sawn-off shotgun out of his bag.
Whoa.
I don't know why I done it. I ran towards him and started fighting with him. And I think that probably saved my life, if I'm quite honest. And I started fighting with him for the gun. I can remember being hit with the butt of the gun, falling on the floor. There was an old lady on the floor, Connie, proper war baby, shouting, get out here, go on, get out here, you know. Yeah, bless Connie, who took some shot in her bum, she said.
Wow.
But yeah, basically, he just leant over me and I said, think of Jack, trying to reason with him.
Your son?
My son. And he literally pointed the gun at my chest, and I'd already pulled my knees up under my chin, anticipating that. And then he released the first shot, which hit me in the leg. The second shot skimmed past me. Then the next thing, then I can remember seeing this silver ornate engraved gun on the floor next to me, which I grabbed. And all I can say is out of supernatural strength, he couldn't get it off me. So then he absolutely pounded me, kicked me, stamped all over me. Everything.
Oh, Rachel, it's, as I say, it's so disturbing to listen to. Darren went on to take his own life after this, didn't he? A terrible situation for all of you. And Liz, sadly, one that you hear, one that we all hear. Like, what can we do to try and bring this to an end? I know Queen Camilla is certainly doing her part, and I know you both feel like her backing is making a difference because it's allowing these stories to be heard. But what can we do going forward with this?
I think listen to people and believe them. So many people, possibly people in this audience, will have experienced domestic abuse. It could happen to anyone, and I think one of the things that's been so great about the Queen's involvement has been demonstrating that it could happen at any level of society to anybody. And I think it's so important as a survivor to know that someone's out there to talk to you, someone's out there to listen to you, and crucially, to believe you. Everything in your psyche when you're in an abusive relationship is telling you that maybe you're a bit crazy, perhaps this isn't real, you want it to not be true. So when you talk to someone and someone's worried about you, it makes an enormous difference if somebody says, I believe you.
Because you can imagine someone who, you know, they're at home like you were, I'm sure, Rachel. You've got children, your lives are inextricably linked. You think, I can't get out of this, but you can, Rachel. This is the point you're wanting to make, Liz, all of the time. You can do it.
And Liz, there are changes in the legal system that have to be made in the fact that, as far as I'm aware, there are no real rehabilitation systems in place for perpetrators of domestic abuse.
No, very few. We run one called Drive, which works with high harm perpetrators and their families, but fewer than 1% of perpetrators get any intervention to change. We've got to stop asking, why doesn't she leave? And start saying, why doesn't he stop?
Why doesn't he stop?
But just in a word, are you happy with everything that you're doing, that there is help available? Because there were so many years when there wasn't really any help, really, for women. So are you confident of that now?
I hope so. There could be more. Of course, there's always more that we can do. But if you reach out to friends, you reach out to family, of course, if you're in immediate danger, ring the police. 999 is most important. But if it's not immediate danger, there is help out there through community-based domestic abuse services, through the National Domestic Abuse Helpline. There is somebody that you can talk to. And the important thing is to reach out for support. And for friends, it's so important to reach
spot the
in,
signs,
to spot the signs and to talk to people, because when you're in it, it's very difficult sometimes. The shame that Rachel talked about is there. You want somebody to talk to who's going to be sympathetic. And if you're a friend, just asking, are you OK? And you know, don't you, if something isn't quite right, you know, isolating from friends, refusing invitations to things.
Just changes.
Just changes, it's so
thank
important.
you very much for all of the work you do. And Rachel, you're just extraordinary. I know that you're a great advocate now and just speaking up constantly, trying to have your story heard and have other people resonate with it. Thank you very much indeed, Rachel and Liz. You might have noticed we have been flashing up the number for the National Domestic Abuse Helpline during this chat. It's free and it is available 24/7. If you are worried about yourself or a loved one, please go to our website, itv.com/advice. There's lots of different websites and advice on there as well for you too.